Introduction to Vedic Palmistry, Hasta Rekha Shastra, published by Singing Dragon in July 2017. Express any interest in astrology in countries like India or Sri Lanka, and fully expect to have your listener wave their hand immediately under your nose. In these countries, astrology and palmistry are quite simply inseparable. My own introduction to palmistry came in a rather strange way. In all honesty, I had no intention of studying this system. At the time, I was deeply engrossed in studies of Jyotish, or Vedic astrology. However, once introduced to the palm, I became quite intrigued with the system. One of the first palmists I encountered on my travels actually turned out to be one of the most impressive. After all but a cursory glance of my palm, he was able to reveal to me some very specific events in my life, and almost to the year that they happened. At the close of our first introduction, I mentioned that I was already studying astrology, and he gave me a quizzical look. He said, "Why don't you study the palm?" At the time I was slightly taken aback by his question, but our meeting had left a lasting impression on me. He had definitely sown a seed in my mind. I call the first chapter of the book Hand Topography and Ayurveda. Before moving on to Ayurveda, let's briefly consider hand topography. Without doubt, everybody at some point in their life has gazed at their hands and palms and wondered at the profusion of lines thereon. When we think of palmists and palmistry, mostly we think of people deliberating over the lines on the palm. But it's much more than that. Indeed, the whole hand is to be considered. When we say palmistry, what we really mean is hand analysis, and that's all aspects of the hand. This includes the nails, fingerprints, the mounds at the base of the fingers, and of course the fingers themselves. On top of this, there's the overall look and feel of the hand. Is the skin dry or rough? Are the nails pinkish or opaque? Does the hand have a lot of colour? Is it quite pale? Are the nails soft and tear easily, or hard and brittle? When the hand is in a rested position, does one finger stand apart from all the others? And is there balance to the fingers? For example, when the fingers are spread, do one or two of the fingers seem unusually elongated or stubby? Do some fingers seem attracted towards one another, while others seem repelled? Ayurveda is the indigenous medical system of India, dating back many thousands of years. This system of medicine categorizes the body in terms of prime elements. These are air, fire, and water, or more appropriately referred to as Vata, air, Pitta, fire, and Kapha, water. It is this combination of dosha which determines our constitutional strengths and weaknesses, our resistance to disease, physical structuring, temperament, mental inclinations, and longevity prospects. What makes analysis of the hand particularly useful from an Ayurvedic perspective is that during the course of our lives the hands change relatively little. When analysing the hand as a whole, we are actually performing a twofold investigation. Firstly, not only the individual's karmic potential, as portrayed by the palm's Rekha, or lines, but also the constitutional health of that individual. By looking at the telltale signatures of the primal elements air, fire, and water, a whole sway of additional analyses can be performed simply by identifying the predominance of elements. Having just awarded considerable weight to a more holistic view of the hand, I'm now going to contradict myself somewhat by stressing the amount of importance laid upon the palm's Rekha. During a more in-depth investigation, palmistry has made things a little easier by segregating the lines into three distinct categories. These have been given as primary Rekha, secondary Rekha, and miscellaneous Rekha. In this next section, we'll take a quick look at all three. It's almost a certainty that everyone has looked at or been shown their lifeline at some point in their life. But this is just one of four primary Rekha on the palm, the others being the headline, heart line, and fate line. And while I've used the traditional names of these lines throughout the book, we'll just use their English equivalents here. The four primary lines might be thought of as four cornerstones, and these in many ways mirror the Kendra houses traditionally used in Vedic astrology. In Hasta Rekha Shastra, the lifeline represents the line of the father. It also represents ancestral wisdom derived from the father's side of the family. In addition, it also indicates our ability to overcome and prevail, to survive in life. Contrary to popular belief, a short lifeline does not necessarily indicate a short life. Next up, we consider the headline. The headline is usually studied to ascertain the strength of the individual's maternal bloodline. It can also indicate the mental state of the individual, as well as the physical condition of the head and brain. In addition, the headline may be studied to assess someone's self-confidence, self-awareness, or the quality or reliability of their long-term memory. The heart line is usually considered to give an indication of the individual's health and well-being. On a physical level, this line is thought also to represent the strength of the heart, quality and abundance of blood, as well as the functionality of the nervous system. The heart line is also thought to indicate the ability of the body to recover from serious illness, injury, or trauma. And finally, the fate line, cleaving the palm almost in two, represents our karmic ledger. This line is studied to ascertain strength and will of character. It may also be used to indicate those who are firmly or not firmly upon their life path. Of the 4 cornerstone lines on the palm, the fate line holds a special reverence in Hasta Rekha, inasmuch as the fate line may cross the other 3 lines at some point. As can be seen in this next slide, the palm is quite richly populated with that category of Rekha known as secondary lines. When first confronted with the palm, most of these lines should be easily distinguishable. Secondary lines are best thought of as support lines for the primaries. It can also be noted here that many of these lines relate directly to planets, such as a Mercury line, a Mars line, a Venus belt, a Saturn line, a Saturn ring, a Jupiter ring, and Jupiter line. Interactions between primary and secondary Rekha are considered extremely important. The final category of lines are those which don't fit into the 2 aforementioned categories, that is, those lines which appear somewhat disconnected with everything else on the palm. These lines generally appear as tributaries or smaller branches pairing off from primary or secondary lines, and may appear anywhere on the hand. In the following diagram, I've graphically represented 1 or 2 variations of these lines. Of course, it's almost impossible to cover every variation of line, but in this diagram, I think I've covered many of the bases. Overall, less weight is afforded to these lines, although they can still be extremely important if they bridge or connect primary and secondary lines. The next chapter of the book deals almost exclusively with planetary portraits. Each of these 9 portraits are a deep and rich exploration of the planetary character and how it relates specifically to the palm. As far as Vedic Palmistry is concerned, there is no disconnect between palm and planets. As previously mentioned, this is why many of the palmists you'll meet in India or Sri Lanka are also quite accomplished astrologers. While not essential to have mastery of both, to have some insight into both systems is highly beneficial. The planetary locations on the hand is of prime importance and should be committed to memory as soon as possible. To this end, I have provided quite a detailed explanation of the planets, the signs they rule, and their houses as positioned upon the palm. Understanding the friendships and enmities of planets is key in how they're going to interact on the palm. In the final section of the book, I discuss remedial measures. This is quite an interesting area in astrology and is particularly important with palmists. Having made a detailed assessment of all the Rekha, the palmist is often expected to provide some means of pacification for unruly planets. This oftentimes takes the form of some astrological amulet, mantra, or sacred thread. In the book, I've given a detailed account of each, devoting quite a large section to the use of planetary mantra, the empowerment of sacred thread, the selection of an appropriate gemstone, or the use of yantra, geometric designs inscribed onto copper sheets and worn in a small brass tube called a suraya. I've reached the end of this presentation now, but before finishing would like to sum up one or two important points about the book. Firstly, I'd like to think this book's been presented in a unique and friendly style, and wherever possible, I've included as many illustrations as the book would allow. This has been done to aid the reader through any of the possible complexities of the subject. This book also contains all of the essentials of Vedic Palmistry, as well as giving an excellent account of remedial measures, a detailed account of zodiacal signs, the planets, and their position upon the hand. If you've enjoyed this short presentation, please look out for my 2 previous slideshows. The first is an introduction to Vedic alchemy, Rasa Shastra, the hidden art of medical alchemy. The second title is Jyotish, the art of Vedic astrology. For more information, please follow the contact details on the end slides, and thank you for listening.